There are a lot of stories, rumors, and even myths about Disney cast members, and even a couple about the parks. We're going to talk about 10 of them. I almost feel kind of like Mythbusters on this one. Confirmed, plausible, busted. There's a lot of myths out there about Disney cast members and several about the parks and just all sorts of stories that I have to admit that when I read some of these things online, I get a pretty good chuckle. So I put a challenge out there for some of my viewers. Give me 10 myths and rumors and stories that you've heard about cast members in the parks that you want to know if they're true or not. So I've got 10 of them in this episode that we're going to work on busting as many as we can. And actually confirm a couple as well. So let's just jump right on into it. Number 1. A cast member has to trade a certain pin if a child requests it. This goes into the whole pin trading thing and if you collect Disney pins or not. There are definitely rules in place on this. So if you're not familiar with Disney pin trading, I'd suggest checking out one of my other videos about pin trading. The general rule, though, about a cast member having to trade a pin, cast members who are pin trading will be wearing a lanyard or a special little belt tag that will have pins on it. Those are pin trading lanyards, and you can only trade for pins that are on the lanyard. You can only trade a Disney pin for a pin that's on the lanyard. You cannot bring in a non-official Disney pin, a Universal pin, or something like that. It has to be a Disney pin. Age doesn't matter on that. The pins have to be on a cast member lanyard or tag, and they have to be Disney official pins. You cannot trade for a pin that a cast member might be wearing. You cannot trade for a pin that's on their name tag, like their anniversary pin. Those are not tradable, and cast members do not have to give those up. Cast members only have to trade for the pins that are on the lanyards and an official Disney pin. And they can tell somebody no otherwise. So if somebody's trying to give them a fake pin even, they can say no to that regardless of how old the guest is. They probably won't, but that's the basic rules. So no, there are definitely times when a cast member can say no to a pin trade. Number 2, there are cats at the parks. Specifically Magic Kingdom. This actually has a little bit of truth to it and some misconceptions. There are a number of wild cats at Disneyland in California. They were there back when it was orange groves, and as they built the park, they realized that these cats helped keep the rodent population down. Well, the story of the cats at Disneyland has kind of transformed and become every single Disney park. And that's not exactly true. In the years I worked at Magic Kingdom and the other Walt Disney World parks, I did occasionally, very rarely, see a wild cat. You would occasionally see them, and again, they're not going to chase them down or get rid of them because they do help keep down the rodent population. But as far as having a whole bunch of them in Florida, I think I saw 1 or 2 the whole time I worked there. So it's not really a thing at the Florida parks. It is at Disneyland, but there's also not a huge number of them either. They keep the numbers down, so you're not constantly seeing cats and wondering why. I actually saw more cats when I was on my trip in Israel than I did at the Disney parks. There were cats all over in Israel, but that's a whole nother story. So yes, there are a few cats at the Disney parks, but not like what you hear about, except at Disneyland. Number 3, cast members aren't allowed to say, "I don't know" to a guest. Yes and no. You are not supposed to say, "I don't know," and leave it at that. If it is a question about where is this, or how can I find that, or what do I do about this, if you don't know, you can say, "Well, I'm not sure, but let's find out." So, "I don't know" is not an acceptable answer on its own. You then have to follow it up with, "Okay, let me figure out how we're going to answer this question. Let me take you to somebody who will. Let me take you to a phone where we can call and find out." We carried around these little things called telecasts that would have a bunch of information. Let me look through that and see if I can find the answer. If it was a reasonable question, we were supposed to find an answer or take the guest to somebody who would be able to have an answer for them. So you didn't leave it at "I don't know." That was assuming, of course, that it wasn't a ridiculous, silly, stupid question. And then oftentimes we would come up with really weird, silly, stupid answers. Like, "How do I get to Universal Studios from here?" Well, you go out, you drive across the parking lot, head up into Orlando, hit I-4, head left, and go that, we would give an answer. So even if it was dumb, you didn't leave it at I don't know. You tried to find an actual answer or solution to them if at all possible. Number 4, cast members have to pick up trash without bending over at the waist, but a lunge or knee dip to prevent bottoms from being exposed. This is partially true, but the reasoning is wrong. Yes, they do actually teach you how to pick up trash. It's meant to be a knee dip while you're walking, not really a lunge, but as you're walking along, you just kind of bend down and you scoop. We actually called it the Disney scoop because you just learned how to do it while you were walking. The idea was not so much so you don't stick your rear end up at somebody, although that is a side benefit. It's actually because it's better for your back and your posture. It's easier and better on your whole body to crouch down, to bend down, and keep your back reasonably straight while you pick up the trash, and then stand up again. If you bend over the other way, you are actually at a greater risk of a back injury, especially if it ends up being something that's heavy. And so that's really the main reason that you do that. It's also much easier while you are walking to just be able to crouch and scoop, as opposed to having to stop and then bend over. It's actually for safety and ease of use versus the other. But the side benefit is, you don't end up mooning somebody that way or putting yourself in a not necessarily appropriate position. It's not the reason, but it's a benefit. Number 5, cast members have special code words to describe not so nice guests, such as treasured guest and special guest. This is actually true, although you don't hear it very often, and they will do it in such a way to try to make sure that guests don't hear it. Treasured guest is the one that I heard, and that was usually a good code word that you had a guest that was being a real pain in the neck with a rotten attitude and just obnoxious. You don't want to be a treasured guest, okay? Now, in Disney parlance, when you get into all the stuff about guest service, they're going to tell you that every guest is a treasured guest. Every guest is a special guest. And so really what it is it's using the Disney lingo and language that they give you in training, and it's kind of using it sarcastically to apply to somebody that you really wish was better and they're not. So you may end up with something, say, if we took a photo of a guest that was being a real pain in the neck, and we had to take them over to our view to show the pictures and get it fixed, and they were just being obnoxious. We might walk in and we may say to our coworker, hey, I've got a treasured guest here for you. It's kind of a keyword, a heads up saying, beware, they're being a pain. That way you're not caught by surprise. So you may do that, and you'd say it in a nice way in front of the guests so they don't realize it. You're really kind of giving your other cast members a warning and a heads up to be careful of them. Don't be a treasured guest. Be a nice guest. Number 6. The Toy Story characters will fall down if someone calls out Andy's coming. No. I'll be honest, there might have been a very short time when Woody and Buzz first started to come out and meet guests that this happened. I know that there's a couple pictures out there online of them laying on the ground, but it's a safety issue. I mean, when you've got those big heavy outfits on, it's really actually kind of dangerous if you try to drop on the ground. It's hard to get up depending upon the position that you're in. It's not a good safety thing at all. So if they ever did it, they ended it very quickly. It would be annoying because if they're out, even when I would shoot pictures with Woody and Buzz, and this is the time of Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3, they haven't been doing this stuff in years if they ever did it. We would still probably at least once every 30 minutes have somebody walk by thinking that they're just swift and cool and smart and yell out, Andy's coming! Can you imagine every 20-30 minutes having to stop everything you're doing and just fall on the ground? And that guests that you're with, it's going to be a pain in the neck for them. It's going to be annoying because now you've ruined their whole interaction. And then, of course, you've got all these other people that are already standing there. Well, kind of late if Andy's coming because everybody else has already seen the Toy Story characters in action. No, this one is not true. If we would hear somebody yell it, one of us, whether the photographer or the attendant, would usually turn around and yell, Andy's at college! And it was a really nice way of us trying to say, hey, you're being stupid, knock it off. They're not going to do something and ruin a whole interaction and risk injury for your amusement there. Sorry. So, nope. Busted. Number 7. Cast will use a signal of pointer fingers, making a smile to remind a cast member who isn't smiling enough. I'm guessing they mean this kind of thing. Smile. I never saw it, never heard of it. It's not in any books that I'm aware of. It may be something that, just as a natural thing you might see people do. There's nothing officially Disney about this. I'm sure I probably did it a few times as a photographer. If I saw somebody in a sour mood walk past me, hey, smile! In fact, I do this kind of a thing a lot to other people if I see them looking grumpy, especially at a theme park. That wouldn't surprise me if somebody did something like that. If you see a cast member at some point and you could tell they're in a bad mood, a coworker will probably give them some sort of gentle reminder. Hey, you're on stage. Smile. Be happy. Isn't it magical? Look like you're happy to be here and happy to see them. Oh, yeah. Okay. Forgot. That's my job. So you might get a reminder like that, but there's no official gesture or anything at all like that. It's like any other job. If you're not doing what you're supposed to, and especially if you're working with customers or guests in Disney's words, you want to put on a happy, friendly face, you're probably going to get a reminder from whoever your leader is if you're sitting there scowling at them. That's true of any place. Number 8, if you forget your name tag, they're going to give you a name tag that says Chris from Orlando. This one I hear oftentimes on all these stories about Disney and behind the scenes. It's bunk. I honestly, maybe way back in the old days this was true, but it's not true now. If you see somebody with a name tag that says Chris from Orlando, it doesn't mean they forgot their name tag. They may generally be Chris from Orlando. And if you forget your name tag, which I think every cast member probably does at some point, there are other options besides Chris. The couple times I forgot my name tag, yes, I did forget it every now and then. I would go up to the manager and say, hey, I forgot it. And they would actually open up a drawer at their office desk that had a whole bunch of name tags. There must have been 15, 20 names on there. So you had your pick of a name that would sound close to yours, so that way you might actually recognize it. Because you really don't want somebody staying there with this generic name tag on, somebody saying, hey, Chris, hello, Chris. Oh, wait, that's right, I'm Chris. So no, there were a variety of names you could pick from. In fact, related to that is the story that there could only be one person with that name in all of Disney World. That's also a really goofy myth. In PhotoPass, most days we had 2 Georges working. There was probably at least 5 or 6 Georges that I knew in PhotoPass, and all of us, our name tag said George on them. So there was no confusion about that. You could have duplicate names. You'd had a bunch of different names in the name tag. In fact, some of the name tags that were in that bin were actually name tags from other cast members that, I forgot a name tag, I got a new one made, and then I ended up with 2, and so they would donate an old one. You had a variety of names and several people with the same name. Number 9, cast members party and sleep around backstage with lots of drugs. Okay, this one I hear every now and then, and it's just like, really? It is not a college frat party backstage. It is a work environment, and people treat it as such. And if they are doing things that are inappropriate backstage, they get fired because it's a job and a work environment. So no, there aren't rowdy parties going on in the backstage area of Disney World with the characters doing stuff that they shouldn't. And, every now and then you get a video leaked out of people messing around a little bit. But honestly, in all the years I worked there with all the characters, I never saw it once. I don't think too many people did. All the college program people, they had a whole dormitory area. They stayed off property. And I'm sure that there were things that went on there like that. Not at work, because it would get you a very quick trip home on a permanent basis from Disney. So no, there is not rampant misbehavior going on backstage. Don't believe those stories. Anytime I see somebody comes out and says, oh yeah, they were constantly making out, you either didn't work at Disney or you're just lying your teeth off to get attention. Not true. Forget it. So no, doesn't happen. Number 10, have a Disney day is really the cast member saying, stick you. Okay, I've actually got a couple ways I need to address this, because this is a common one. It's mostly not true. So 2 things I want to address. First off, the phrase is not have a Disney day. It's have a magical day. And the phrase itself actually comes out of the training manuals and from traditions where they give you a whole bunch of suggested phrases to use with guests to help enhance the guest experience. And have a magical day is actually one of the phrases they use in training to give you to use with guests. Have a Disney day does not exist. I actually did some research on this, trying to figure out where on earth this have a Disney day thing came from. And it actually starts in the early to mid 2000s online. It's an internet thing that started and just kind of grew and has grown. And because it's been around the internet so much, it started to make its way into the parks with some cast members who heard it online before they got jobs in Disney. That's at least the best I've been able to figure out. I've run into a couple people that said they used it at Disneyland, but they also had not been long-term cast members. Every long-term cast member I spoke of, it was have a magical day. And again, it's because it comes out of the Disney training, just kind of like the treasured guests, and it's a code word that way where you kind of use what Disney gives you sarcastically. However, this is the second part. It is not always meant in a rude way. In fact, I would say probably 2/3 of the time it's not. I know a lot of cast members, myself included, who would use it to talk to kids, to talk to guests where you genuinely meant, hey, I hope you have a fantastic, wonderful, magical day. It's a genuine phrase that's used to encourage the guests to have a good time and say thank you. That doesn't mean it isn't used through gritted teeth sometimes. And I will admit there were some times that I used it that way, and I know a number of other cast members have as well. If you had a guest that was being a major pain in the neck, you probably, through gritted teeth, said, I hope you have a magical day. And you're trying to say it as nice as you can, while at the same time you're thinking, I really want to kick you in the butt. You have to really consider how the cast member says it. If they say it to you with a smile on their face and you've been having a very friendly interaction, like, have a magical day, they genuinely mean it and you're fine, don't worry. They want you to have a great time and a great day. However, if you've been having any sort of argument, or you've been rude, or you haven't been real nice, you've been a jerk, you've been demanding stuff, they say it to you a little more on the serious side, like, I hope you have a magical day. You've probably been a jerk, and they have just told you off. But they're trying to do it in a way that you don't know you've been told off. My experience, I would say it fluctuates probably around 2/3 of the time positive, and 1/3 of the time they don't like you. So that's probably about how that works out. Yes, maybe, but it's not have a Disney day. So that's 10 cast member myths that I've heard, that I've had people ask me about. Do you have others you want to know? Other things that you've heard? Other stories and rumors that you wonder if they're true? I'd love to hear them. Send them my way, put them in the comments below, let me know what they are. If you got a question you want answered, put it in the comments. Do you agree or disagree with me on some of these things? I'd love to hear that too. Thank you to my patrons as well for supporting me. My patrons are awesome. If you want to know more about Patreon supporting me, or about my merchandise, my brand new SirWillow pins, the Facebook fan pages, all that stuff, check the description below. There's a ton of information in there for you. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless. It's either got to be on the lanyard, or it either has to be on the lanyard. No, it's both. It has to be on a pin trading lanyard that a cast member is wearing, or I'm not rowing a boat. Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah, don't forget to sherbet. If you want to know whenever I have a new video out, well, hey, make sure you hit that button right there and subscribe. If you want to see another video right now, well, I've got a great one right here for you. And if you want to be like these wonderful people here and help support me financially on Patreon, well, check out that link right there and it'll take you to it. Thanks so much, and God bless.